in the social sector, my journey is barely 5 years old. And I've often been asked, why scale? So when this topic was proposed by Gaurav, I was excited about sharing why I have been excited about scale, or why does scale drive me. And to me, the question is almost as if you're asking why social change. And allow me to structure my thoughts, allow me to share a couple of pages with you. So why would we want to scale impact? And my answer to you today is not as a technologist, but as a citizen. We would want to scale impact for equity. Like the ovarian lottery is unfair. As a deep believer in karma, I may not question where somebody is born, but what we as a society provide, I feel we have failed. Infant mortality of 35, while the best in the world operate at infant mortality of 5, those 30 additional lives per 1,000 are our responsibility. And if we find a way to be able to improve them, it's an imperative that we scale that. It's an imperative that we take it to all the districts in our country. Potential, what's been referred as the demographic dividend, actively turning out into demographic disaster or dynamite. I think we know about our learning outcomes. We've had the ASA report stare at us in our face year after year without the learning outcomes at grade 5 changing. My friend Ashish shares very humbly, with a lot of humility, having run CSF, that Mekin, we have not made impact on learning outcomes. And I think this sight is most visible when you have 1 crore people applying for 40,000 railway jobs. And I don't think we need statistics, because that drive to apply for these jobs, that action that they take, tells us of the wasted potential that they could have had. Shame. I am ashamed of where we are as a country in terms of gender and caste. I think for our female labor participation to fall to 20, when countries around us continue to grow, and for us to not have good answers around it, for us to not be able to change it. And for me, at least on this page, I don't even see significant lights at the end of the tunnel. So I would hope and I would wish that this drives us into scaling solutions that fix things for caste and gender. And finally, because I'm an Indian, 138 crore brothers and sisters. If I were born in Bhutan or in Sri Lanka, I may not have thought about scale. It may not have bothered me at all. But with 138 crore brothers and sisters, I cannot but think about scale. That I have to find ways of creating impact, and so do we all. That'll impact that massive nation that we have. So I hope this page, the need for working on scale, is something that I've been able to at least convey, if not convince. And even while we carry the baggage of unaccomplished goals around health, education, gender, and caste, we are staring in a future which has even larger challenges of climate change, polarization, fake news, and more. Right? And if we don't learn how to deal with them at scale, I feel like our voice will become less and less relevant, that civil society will have less and less impact on society itself. But I am hopeful because I feel it's possible. It's possible, and it's possible not just in the soul-crushing, industrial, mindless replication kind of way that scale is often thought to be. But it's possible to create many different models of scale that create massive impact. And I'll take the next few minutes to just share a few of them that have really, that I feel have created massive impact. There is what all of us think of as scaling, which is scaling operations and doing more of the same, but doing it better and at higher quality. And Arvind Eye Care is probably one of the most inspiring examples. The book Infinite Vision, and there's another book which will also come on this slide. Those two books have been my deepest inspirations in the development world. A proof of what's possible to do while focusing on the user, being in context, doing 3 lakh surgeries last year, of which 1/3 were free. I think Arvind provides us how can you scale operations and yet be thoughtful, yet be mindful. This is an example that many of you may not have heard of. Matsushita is a school of governance in Japan. And the school is rooted in the idea of service and self-knowledge. This one school has created 1 prime minister, 6 cabinet level ministers and opposition leaders, and 73 local and central government politicians. This school has been the center of change for the politics in Japan. And I feel like that is massive scale impact. If you can create education of this kind, if you can create educational institutions which are rooted in true values that go on to create such large scale impact, because each of those individuals are able to drive significant amount of impact. Role models. I think the work of Dr. Rani and Abhay Bang from Gadchiroli is what led to the Asha worker movement in India starting. And I think I don't have to explain the impact of those Asha workers through all these years and specifically in the pandemic. Similarly, Grameen's role modeling of the self-help group model, which has led to a microfinance industry of about 2+ lakh crores of rupees going into the hands of women rurally, is like, those are examples where one organization has created a role model that can then go on to be replicated at national scale and create much, much higher agency and impact. This I don't have to talk about to most of you. I think the impact of policy change, of the right to information, right to education, the scale at which policy change creates impact is massive. So driving more positive policy changes is another model of scale. Community as a scale model, and while Amul is something that we all know of, and I'm sure most of us use Wikipedia once a day, if not once a week. And that's all community led. That's the power of community in creating knowledge and creating awareness through constant participation and volunteering. And that's something that, those are models in which you can create massive scale impact. Wikipedia, by the way, is a non-profit, one of the 2 technology non-profits that I think operate at scale, Signal being the other. The partnership model, I think enough of you know about 108. I'll take a moment to talk about step 1, which is barely 2 years old, started in the pandemic along with a volunteering group called Startups versus COVID. Step 1 has so far answered about 8.5 million free consultations through 12,000 plus volunteer doctors in 21 plus states in over 80 dialects in the country. It's a completely volunteer organization that came together to answer the crisis that COVID was. And it's happened because of significant amount of volunteering and partnerships between public-private enterprises, as well as in just volunteers, doctors, governments, to try and make a change happen. So that, to me, is another model of how can things scale. And finally, technology, which has been an accelerator of change in the world. UPI in December clocked about 8.27 lakh crore rupees being transacted through UPI. That's a little over 8 lakh crores in just 1 month. That's the kind of impact that UPI has had. That big number is it does not feel really emotional. But what does feel emotional is when you see this QR code. When I see a PhonePe QR code near a dabwala or a coconut seller, and with people doing small businesses and home service. So a technology change that has truly democratized digital payments is something that has been possible. So has internet, so has Geo, and YouTube and WhatsApp have been ways of learning. I think these, as models of scale, offer a lot of opportunity in terms of how can we think about scale. I want to share my personal experience with, how much time do I have, Devanshi?
You're a little bit over.
I am a little bit over. I will then maybe stop with this last thought. Paul Graham is, to anybody in the startup industry, has been a role model. And he has a beautiful essay on do things that don't scale. I would encourage all of you to read it. As somebody who has instigated many people to go and create enormous value in the world through technology, he talks about aspects of joy and being user-centric and taking care of quality and really innovating so that costs fall significantly lower than what they are today. So really pushing the bar and using that to be able to create impact. With that, thank you.